The Commission of Inquiry into the Usindiso building fire continues in Johannesburg this morning. This week, the Commission heard testimony from city officials. CEO of the Johannesburg property company, Hellen Botes, told the Commission that the gutted building was hijacked in 2018 after the lease with an NGO that was occupying it was not renewed. Botes also revealed that the company failed to purchase the building due to a lack of funding. 77 people died and many were displaced in the August blaze. Newzroom Afrika's Ziniko Mhlaba is tracking the inquiry for us and joins me now in studio to talk a little bit more about it. Ziniko, very good morning to you. We've heard quite a bit coming out of that commission. I mean, the failures of the city in managing properties, hijacked properties, has really come out under the spotlight and under scrutiny. What has been said about those failures and the challenges that come with it?
So, remember that the city has a couple of stakeholders who are operating within the city. I'm talking about civil organization, I'm talking about the municipality itself, through the City of Johannesburg legislator, but also the company that has the mandate of managing the properties on behalf of the city. So the stakeholders we were speaking to yesterday gave us very shocking insights in terms of how the city has been failing, to monitor, but also to account and ensure that each and every property is accounted for. It is well recorded in terms of its status, whether, in terms of whether it is complying with the bylaws of the city itself, or whether it's able to raise funds through rental and various lease agreements with private sector, but also to government department itself. And they also told us that actually even law enforcement have been, having a very bad attitude in terms of ensuring that they do attend to cases laid by these organizations, cases that relate to hijacking of buildings. So Usindiso building, unfortunately, is one of those many properties under the city that have been neglected. And also the company itself did acknowledge and admit before the commission that it's been failing to act in terms of ensuring that it claims back the Usindiso building due to various reasons. But also one of those reasons was that we cannot kick those people out, because in order for us to be able to kick those people out, we must give them an alternative in terms of accommodation. But also it's a hijacked building, so we cannot issue out notices to the residents, because obviously and officially we do not know who's inside that building. So we will not have the addresses or the names or even details of the people we'll be sending out to those letters to. So that has been the challenge, which is, you also remember that this company is managing a portfolio of about over 20,000 properties of the city of Johannesburg. So you can imagine how much work it has to do in terms of recording all these properties and ensuring that they are in a good state.
Yeah, it's a hijacked building with several horror stories. What did the commissions have to say about the state of the building? I mean, just listening to some of the occupants and those who managed to survive this deadly blaze, they spoke about the most horrifying things that happened inside and gave us a very broad picture, a very descriptive picture of what the inside looks like.
The problem here is that we're talking about the city company, the Johannesburg property company, not being able to know which the state of each and every property. However, the Johannesburg Metropolis Department has the responsibility of securing those buildings. So when a building is hijacked, the city and also the law enforcement do not have access to the inside of this building. That's where the testimonies we are hearing coming from the victims themselves are saying that we saw people being burned and killed inside the building. We saw people trading drugs inside the building. We saw people jumping in and out of the building whenever there's a criminal incident that is taking place inside. So you can tell that it was a den of lions, especially when it comes to criminals taking over and doing whatever they see fit within the building itself. So that has been the problem now. And the city entities, as we are talking right now, Pick It Up is testifying before the commissioners. They are being taken to task in terms of how did so much refuse remain inside the building. And they're telling us the same story, that it is not secure for us to get inside that building, or it was not secure for them to get inside that building. But also saying that according to the bylaws, they are not supposed to get inside the property and collect refuse. So the people who are residing inside the facility must be able to take out the refuse and Pick It Up collects that refuse on the street. So that's what the commissioners now are probing Pick It Up on. But you've got this responsibility, but you have not been able to fulfill or to do what you're mandated to do. And then the debate is ongoing. They're saying that we can't get inside. People must take out the refuse so that we're able to collect from the street. So the commission right now is probing the mandate and the responsibility and the failures of Pick It Up, which they believe actually the fire, was pushed or was extended, was catalyzed more by the refuse which was inside that Usindiso building.
I also understand you spoke to the former COJ of Housing, MMC, Mhlaba Mabaso. What did he say?
So he told us that it's been the problem in terms of fixing the problem of hijacked building in the city is the lack of political will. He's been saying that we've discussed these matters. Inside the council. And remember, we're talking about someone here who had been in that portfolio for 2 terms. So he has serious insight about that problem. So
perhaps let's listen to him. Let's hear what he had to say.
The reality is that it gets to be attended when there are incidents that have occurred in the buildings. You will remember the incident that occurred at Usindiso building. Immediately after that, we saw MMCs on the ground, trying to respond to the cry from the residents about the hijacked building. But what happened after that? Nobody's doing anything, nobody's saying anything now. They are quiet about it, and that's the main challenge, and that has always been a challenge. And we've been saying that there is a lack of a political will in Johannesburg to deal with issues of hijacked buildings in the inner city, and to attend to build buildings and so forth. And up until politicians take the issue of built buildings and the abandoned buildings in the inner city, these challenges that we are facing, that we're seeing on daily basis, are not going to go away.
So that's the former MMC of Housing in the city of Johannesburg. As I was saying before we got to that right back, he served 2 terms as the MMC of Housing. So he has insights and full knowledge about this problem of hijacked building in the city. But you also remember these beggars during the term of Mhlaba, who was still the mayor under the DA umbrella at the time. So he also mentioned that the Johannesburg property company has been having its own challenges in terms of managing these properties on behalf of the city. As I said earlier on, we're talking about a portfolio of about over 20,000 within the city. So let's take a listen to Mr. Mabaso again.
In fact, are the buildings that where the owner cannot be traced, and government-owned buildings. Those are the most hijacked buildings in the inner city. But the challenge is that Public Works and Johannesburg Property Company are unable to manage their own properties, and they are unable to use these buildings, efficiently, so that at least they are able to bring in revenue for the city and develop the community of Johannesburg. So what we have seen with Usindiso building, that building is owned by the city, but the building was leased for good intentions. But what happened afterward? When the lease expired, then the city did not attend to its property. And I think it's the same problem with all the buildings in the city, in the inner city. And not only in the inner city, even here in Region D. If you go to Region E, the city owns quite a lot of properties, that have not been attended to. They've been left, to legal criminals, to illegal, activities taking place in those particular buildings. So there is no proper coordination and proper property management within the city and within Public Works, so that they are able to manage these properties, so that they bring in revenue and develop the community of Johannesburg and the people of South Africa.
Yeah, so Mhlaba, so they're speaking about a lack of proper management, which pretty much also speaks to the questions that Pick It Up will have to account for as the Commission continues with its work. Pick It Up's role, why was there so much litter?
That's the question Pick It Up is currently asking before the Commission. Remember that some of the evidence that has been brought before the Commission talks to the issue of there was so much litter inside the building, and experts believe that that amount of litter contributed to the size of the fire and the inability for emergency management service to get in as soon as possible and to be able to ensure that they manage the fire itself. So Pick It Up has to defend its responsibilities, and it's been doing that now using the bylaws of the city, which has been so far that we can't get inside somebody's private property. Somebody has to take out the litter outside, and that's where we collect it. However, the evidence leader, Advocate Simini, has been saying that, but it's an ecosystem. Everyone has to contribute. So if you see that the people are not able to take out the litter outside onto the streets, why don't you get inside and maybe at the veranda or at the stairs you collect that? So Pick It Up has been saying that, well, that's an ideal situation, but practically it is not safe for us to get inside that building. But also according to the laws of the municipality, which are bylaws, we can't do that. We would be violating people's privacy.
What about talk, before we let you go, Ziniko, talk of demolishing the entire building? I mean, how does that factor in?
So remember that after the fire, emergency management services had to conduct investigations in terms of what led to the fire. And also there was a private entity which was also assisting emergency management services in terms of querying that fire. So after those investigations have come out, and they're recommending that in its current state, post the fire incident, that Usindiso building is no longer safe for people to stay in. So therefore, it has to be demolished, and the city then will have to decide whether they rebuild or they move on or whatever they do, but the building in its current form cannot be occupied. Remember that when there's fire, emergency management services use water to deal with that fire, and due to that interaction between water and the fire, the strength of the facility or the building itself is weakened, and that's one of the contributing reasons to having the building now being declared unsafe for human occupation, which leads to a decision that this building now has to be demolished.
Yeah, very well. Ziniko Mhlaba, they're giving us a breakdown of the Usindiso inquiry, that deadly fire in Marshalltown, which claimed 77 lives in August. That ongoing, and of course you will continue to hear more of it right here on Newzroom Afrika.